Namaskar. Quarter joint types, assembly and application. What is a quarter joint? A quarter joint, also known as socket and spigot joint, is a method of temporarily joining two coaxial rods. One rod is fitted with a spigot which fits inside a socket on one end of the other rod. Slots in the socket and the spigot align so that a quarter can be inserted to lock the two rods together. Quarter joints are used to support axial loads between the two rods, tensile or compressive. Although a quarter joint will resist the rotation of one rod relative to the other, it should not be used to join rotating shafts. This is because the quarter will not be balanced and may work loose under the combination of vibration and centrifugal force. The quarter joint assembly consists of the three components. Spigot, it is the male part of the joint. It has a rectangular slot for passing the quarter through it. The spigot has a collar that rests against the socket end. Socket, it is the female part of the joint. It also has a rectangular slot for passing the quarter through it. It has a circular hole in which the spigot fits quarter. It is a wedge-shaped piece of metal that actually connects two parts which are not rotating. Quarter is a flat wedge-shaped metal piece used to connect two rods that transmit the force but without rotation. The force may be axial and of tensile or compressive nature. A quarter is fitted in the tapered slot and remains in its position because of wedge action. This happens because of taper. Generally, the value of taper on quarter is 1 in 48 to 1 in 24, and it provides mainly two benefits. First, this taper is easy to remove and makes disassembling of joints a simple process. Second, the taper also ensures the tightness of the joints and prevents the parts from loosening. Types of quarter joint. Following are the three types of quarter joint to connect two rods by a quarter: socket and spigot quarter joint, sleeve and quarter joint, jib and quarter joint, socket and spigot quarter joint. A quarter joint nose a socket and spigot joint. It is a method of temporarily joining two coaxial rods. One end of the rod provided with a socket type and the other end of the other rod inserted into the socket. The end of the rod goes into a socket, also called a spigot. A rectangular hole is built into the socket and spigot. A quarter is tightly operating through a hole to make a temporary connection between the two rods. The load is usually acting axially, but it changes its direction, and so the quarter joint should be designed to carry both tensile and compressive loads. Compressive loads taken by the collar on the spigot. Sleeve and quarter joint. Sleeve and quarter joint is a type of joint used to typically connect two similar coaxial cylindrical rods. It includes a sleeve and two wedge-shaped tapered quarters. Appropriate slots cut in the sleeve and in the cylindrical rods. The quarter is mounted in these slots. The taper of the quarter is usually 1 in 24. It may note that the taper sides of the two quarters must face each other. The clearance is so adjusted that when the quarters are driven in two rods, they come close to each other and thus tight the joint. Sleeve and quarter joint is the simplest quarter joint in existence. It is quite rigid and can take both tensile and compressive loads. It can be easily assembled and dismantled. The joint can also be used to connect similar pipes, tubes, rectangular rods and similar cylindrical rods cannot connected using this joint. A sleeve and quarter joint does not allow angular misalignment between its cylindrical members. It cannot connect cylindrical members which undergo rotation. Jib and quarter joint. A jib and quarter joint is commonly used at the strap end or big end of a connecting rod. In some cases, when the quarter alone, that is without jib, is run, the friction between its ends and the inside slot in the strap causes the wedges of the strap to open outward. To prevent this, jib is used that hold the ends of the strap together. In addition, the gaiter provides a larger bearing surface for the quarter to slide as the holding power increases. Thus, the friction of the quarter reduces the tendency to slack back. Jib also enables parallel holes to be used. Jib and quarter joints are used for rods of square and rectangular cross section. The end of one rod fits the end of the other rod, which made in the form of a strapping. Jib used along with the quarter to make these joints. Jib is likely a quarter, but with two jib heads at its ends, while the width, the thickness of the jib and quarter are same. When one jib is used, the quarter with one side tapered is provided, and the jib is always on the outside. When two jibs are used, the quarter with both sides sorry when two jibs are used, the quarter with both sides tapered is provided, sometimes to prevent loosening of the quarter. A small set screw is used through the rod, jamming against the quarter. Application of quarter joint. Following are the quarter joint applications. It is used to connect piston rods in a crossed head in a steam engine. It is used to connect the piston rod with its extension. It is also used in bicycles to connect pedals to sprocket wheels. Foundation board. The joint between the slide spindle and the fork of the valve mechanism. Quarter and dowel arrangement to join the two halves of a flywheel. Used for joining of a tail rod with the piston rod of a wet air pump. It is used to connect two rods of equal diameters subjected to axial force. The quarter joint is used to connect the piston rod's extension with the connecting rod in the crosshead is an automobile engine. Quarter joint historically used to connect connecting rods in steam engines and pumps for draining mines. Advantages of quarter joints. Quarter joints can be easily made, and the parts always occupy exactly the same relative positions after the assembly. The joints can be used to connect similar pipes. Tubes. Assembling and dismantling of quarter joints parts are quick and easy and do not require special efforts. Quarter joints are simple and easy to manufacture and open in markets. It is quite rigid and can take both tensile and compressive loads. Disadvantages of quarter joints. Rectangular rods and dissimilar cylindrical rods cannot be connected using this joint. The sleeve and quarter joints that cannot connect cylindrical members undergo rotation. Failure of quarter joint. When the quarter joints tightened in the socket and spigot slot, it is exposed to shear stresses, and if the quarter is loose, the quarter will bend. The various modes of failures in quarter joints are discussed below. Failure of the rods in tension, failure of the spigot in tension, across the weakest section, failure of the rod or quarter in crushing, failure of the socket in tension across the slot, failure of quarter in shear, failure of the socket collar in crushing, failure of socket and sink shearing, failure of rod and in shear, failure of spigot collar in crushing, failure of the spigot collar in shearing, failure of quarter in bending. In this article, we learn about quarter joint. This is one type of mechanical joint, and also known as socket and spigot joint. It is a method of temporarily joining two coaxial rods. One rod is fitted with a spigot, which fits inside a socket and one end of the other. A socket on one end of the other rod. Slots in the socket and the spigot align so that a quarter can be inserted to lock the two rods together. Quarter joint types, assembly and application. What is a quarter joint? Quarter joint. Quarter joint types, assembly and application. By what is a quarter joint? A quarter joint, also known as socket and spigot joint, is a method of temporarily joining two coaxial rods. One rod is fitted with a spigot which fits inside a socket and one end of the other rod. Slots in the socket and the spigot align so that a quarter can be inserted to lock the two rods together. Quarter joints are used to support axial loads between the two rods, tensile or compressive. Although a quarter joint will resist the rotation of one rod relative to the other, it should not be used to join rotating shafts. This is because the quarter will not be balanced and may work loose under the combination of vibration and centrifugal force. The quarter joint assembly consists of three components. Spigot. It is the male part of the joint. It has a rectangular slot for passing the quarter through it. The spigot has a collar that rests against the socket and socket. It is the female part of the joint, also has a rectangular slot for passing the quarter through it. It has a circular hole in which the spigot fits quarter. It is a wedged wedge-shaped piece of metal that actually connects two parts which are non-rotating. Quarter is a flat. Quarter is a flat wedged. Quarter is a flat wedge-shaped metal piece used to connect two rods that transmit the force but without rotation. The force may be axial and of tensile or compressive nature. Quarter is fitted in the tapered slot and remains in its position because of wedge action. This happens because of taper. Generally, the value of taper on quarter is 1 in 48 and 1 in 24, and it provides mainly two benefits. First, this taper is easy to remove and makes disassembling of joint a simple process. Second, the taper also ensures the tightness of the joints and prevents the parts from loosening. Types of quarter joints. Following are the three types of quarter joints to connect two rods by a joint: socket and spigot quarter joint, sleeve and quarter joint, jib and quarter joint. Socket and spigot quarter joint. A quarter joint known as socket and spigot joint is a method of temporarily joining two coaxial rods. One end of the rod provided with a socket type and the other end of the rod, and the other end of the other rod inserted into the socket. The end of the rod goes into a socket, also called a spigot. A rectangular hole is built into the socket and spigot. A quarter is tightly operating through a hole to make a temporary connection between the two rods. The load is usually connecting axially, but it changes its direction, and so the quarter joint should be designed to carry both tensile and compressive loads. Compressive load taken by the collar on the spigot, sleeve, and the quarter joint. Sleeve and quarter joint is a type of joint used to typically connect two similar coaxial cylindrical rods. It includes a sleeve and two wedge-shaped tapered quarters. Appropriate slots cut in the sleeve and in the cylindrical rods. The quarter is mounted in these slots. The taper of the quarter is usually 1 in 24. It may note that the taper sides of the two collars must face each other. The clearance is so adjusted that when the quarters are driven into rods, they come close to each other and thus tighten the joint. Sleeve and quarter joint is the simplest quarter joint in existence. It is quite rigid and can take both tensile and compressive loads. It can be easily assembled and dismantled. The joint can also be used to connect similar pipe tubes. Rectangular rods and dissimilar cylindrical rods cannot connected using this joint. A sleeve and quarter joint does not allow angular misalignment between its cylindrical members. It cannot connect cylindrical members which undergo rotation. Jib and quarter joint. Jib and quarter joint. A jib and quarter joint Jib and quarter joint commonly used at the strap end or big end of a connecting rod. In some cases, when the quarter alone that is along without jib is run, the friction between its ends and the inside slot in the strap causes the edge of the strap to open outward. To prevent this jib is used that hold the ends of the strap together. In addition, the gator provides a larger bearing surface for the quarter to slide, and as the holding power increases, thus the friction of the holding power. To prevent this, jib is used that hold the ends of the strap together. In addition, the gator provides a larger bearing surface for the quarter to slide as the holding power increases. Thus, the friction of the quarter reduces the tendency to slack back. Jib also enables parallel holes to be used. Jib and quarter joints are used for rods of square or rectangular cross sections. The end of the one rod fits the end of the other rod, which made in the form of a strap. A jib used along with the quarter to make these joints. Jib is likely a quarter but with two jib heads at its ends. Width and the thickness of the jib and quarter are the same. When one jib is used, the quarter with one side tapered is provided and the jib is always on the outside. When two jigs are used, the quarter with both sides tapered is provided. Sometimes to prevent loosening of the quarter, a small set screw is used to the rod jamming against the quarter. Application of quarter joint. Following are the quarter joint applications. It is used to connect piston rods in a crosshead in a steam engine. It is used to connect the piston rod with its extension. It is also used in bicycles to connect pedals to sprocket with foundation bolt. The joint between the slide spindle and the fork of the valve mechanism. Quarter and dowel arrangement to join the two valves of a flywheel, used for joining of a tail rod with the piston rod of a wet air pump. It is used to connect two rods of equal diameter subjected to axial force. The quarter joint is used to connect the piston rod's extension with the connecting rod in the crosshead in an automobile engine. The quarter joint is historically used to connect connecting rods in steam engines and pumps for training mines. Advantages of quarter joints. Quarter joints can be easily made and the parts always occupy exactly the same relative positions after assembly. The joints can be used to connect similar pipes tubes. Assembling and dismantling of quarter joints parts are quick and easy and do not require special efforts. Quarter joints are simple and easy to manufacture and obtain in markets. It is quite rigid and can take both tensile and compressive loads. Disadvantages of quarter joints. Rectangular rods and dissimilar cylindrical rods cannot be connected using this joint. The sleeve and the quarter joints that cannot connect cylindrical members undergo rotation. Failure of quarter joint. When the quarter joint is tightened in the socket and spigot slot, it exposed to shear stresses. Then if the quarter is loose, quarter will bend. The various modes of failure in quarter joints are discussed. The failure of the rods in tension, failure of the spigot in tension across the weakest section, failure of the rod or quarter in crushing, failure of the socket in tension across the slot, failure of quarter in shear, failure of socket collar in crushing, failure of socket and in shearing, failure of rod and in shear, failure of spigot collar in crushing, failure of the spigot collar in shearing, failure of quarter in bending. In this article, we learned about the quarter joint. This is one type of mechanical joint and also known as socket and spigot joint. It is a method of temporarily joining two coaxial rods. One rod is fitted with a spigot which fits inside the socket on one end and one end of the other rod. Slots in the socket and the spigot align so that the quarter can be inserted to lock the two rods together. नमस्कार, धन्यवाद, थैंक यू so much.